Yo, what's up, and welcome to episode 110 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and joining me as always is my main man, Woody V.
What's up, Robbie? Special day, man. Good to be here as always. 110 episodes. It's going
Absolutely,
quickly.
mate. Yeah, and geez, we've been looking forward to this one, haven't we? So, well, I better get this intro out of the way, so hopefully this won't take up the full time of the show here, but really excited to introduce another special guest to the show this week. Someone whose poster held pride of place in my bedroom as a youngster growing up in Perth. This man was born in New York City and ended up coming to Australia 45 years ago when he was an import for the Bullets in the inaugural season of the NBL. He also went on to play with Geelong, Perth and Hobart and had a number of stints as a player coach as well as various coaching roles after he retired. He achieved a great deal of success, notably winning a title with the Bullets in 1985 and then leading Perth to their first ever title when he coached the mighty Wildcats against the strong Bullets team in 1990. He has played for the Boomers, had the honour of receiving an Order of Australia in 2021 for service to basketball as a player and coach. He was one of the first inductees to the NBL Hall of Fame. And let's not forget, he's also the father of one of the most successful ever NBL players. It's a huge Throwback Hoops welcome to the one and only Cal Bruton.
Thank you, fellas. That's nice. Appreciate it.
It's great having you here, Cal. Really appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't miss anything out there. I know obviously we couldn't fit it all in that little intro there, but really excited to chat today. I was sort of doing a bit of research. It brought back a lot of memories, as I said, as a kid growing up in Perth and knowing what you did for the franchise that I love so dearly there. So looking forward to talking a little bit about it. So as I mentioned to you, Cal, we like to wear something each show and talk a little bit about something we're wearing. So loving that you're rocking the retro Wildcats jersey there. So why don't you show us or talk a little bit about what you've got on today?
Well, I got the throwback uniform where we played at I think it was the 30th anniversary in Perth. They brought back a few of the players. James Crawford came back. They obviously, excuse me, Mike Ellis and all the locals, Glenn Ellis, and we all had a nice little run together, and that was really good in front of a real big crowd. And it just brought back. I went into my gymnasium room and where my son is lifting weights. He set it up and everything, and we got these jerseys on the wall. And I went to go lift up this one, and the hook fell down. Now I really was actually going for the one next to it, the Geelong jersey.
Ooh.
That was one of the teams that I thought, oh, that's a nice one to wear. But as it turned out, the one fell down, and this is the one that's been talked about recently. So that's the one I'm wearing, and I'm very proud of what we were able to achieve in the Wildcats from 1987 to 1992.
Yep.
I left in May '91 actually, but from there we reached the top, and then they were on their way to the back-to-back championships. And my goal was to make the Wildcats the team of the '90s, and they well and truly went on to do that.
Yep.
I sure did. Well, I've got to have a follow-up question, Cal. How did you go in that game there? Were you still playing pretty well in that 30th anniversary game?
Yeah, I was still pretty active. I had been playing, in the little local comps here and there, and I was able to at least get my leg up high enough to throw my my all-time traditional pass between
the legs in the air.
Yeah. So I still enjoy. I don't play as much as just as coaching young kids and demonstrating and doing those sorts of things. But that particular game was pretty special to try to kind of get out there and run with the old fellas and then see how we go. But I try to keep myself in reasonable shape. I'm approaching 70 this year, so I'm trying to turn it into overdrive anymore.
Good stuff. Well, appreciate that. And what about yourself, Woody? I can see you're rocking a bit of a themed jersey today that Cal might like as well.
For sure. Let me just stand up.
Woody's standing up, rocking the number 30. Someone you know pretty well, right, Cal?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, CJ's the only one has his jersey retired, the Bruton jersey retired. 3 countries. He's got it retired in Sydney.
Yep.
He also has it retired in New Zealand. And he played at Indian Hills Community College and led them to their first national title. And he was All-American and first MVP of the national tournament. So they retired his jersey there as well. So that's pretty cool. And oh, I shouldn't say that. Austin has his jersey retired in Indian Hills as well. My son also lives in Perth. He played at Indian Hills following CJ, and they won the national championship too. So that was pretty good.
Very cool.
Well, Cal, I'm a huge Kings fan. Robbie, obviously a Perth fan. In the news today, last couple of days we've seen, your son's ex-coach come back and he's going to take over the reins as head coach of the Kings after a tough season this year. What are your thoughts on that? And then what do you expect from Brian this time around as Kings head coach?
Well, Brian has a lot of pull.
Yep.
He's obviously the national coach, and he's leading the team in Paris and for the Olympics. It was a no-brainer for Sydney to try to reinvigorate the whole fan base and reminisce on the success. It would be fantastic if he was to bring CJ on as a
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
but I'm not sure how that rolls. I know recently we were in Bendigo where the Australian team played against Korea, and we were there doing a program for the Bruton Basketball Foundation, and it just coincidentally them two got together and someone took a snapshot of them two having a hug.
Yep.
So that was really nice. CJ came in to replace Shane Hill when he retired, and of course, Cannons had folded, and that was a real disappointing time for myself as well as all other players that were here. But CJ was fortunate enough to get another job with the Kings, and everyone was wondering how would he go, and for him to really lead the team to that title. I thought he played really well. I was there for all the games, and I was really proud of him getting that chip and that ring. And he actually took the ring that they gave him and gave it to me. He wanted me to have it.
I remember. Nice. Yeah.
I still have that ring sitting up here in my windowsill.
Awesome.
I'll tell you what, not only your son, someone like Jacob Jacomas had a tough run this year. He's a good friend of ours, been on the show a few times, and it'd be nice for Brian to bring in CJ and Jacob and give them an opportunity on that coaching staff. It'd be terrific, right?
Well, they're two great students of the game. Jacob, I've seen him recently. He's come to Canberra a few times working with the national junior campaign and all the development players under the executive high performance manager Peter Lonigan.
Yep.
He's passionate and he knows his stuff. And unfortunately, he just couldn't, like CJ, couldn't really get those players to get to that level where they were playing passionately and intently for them.
Yep.
But Brian, that's what he hangs his hat on. He gets guys to play hard, play smart, play together, and that's why he's been a very successful coach.
Yep.
You would have played against Brian, I'm assuming, then, Cal?
I played against Brian a number of times.
Yeah, what was his game like? Because people kind of forget about that he actually was a player as well. I know he was a left-hander, wasn't he? But yeah, how did he go?
He was a shooter. He ran the point. Not very quick, but he had good size and he can get his shot off. You couldn't leave him open. He was pretty deadly. They had a shuffle offense, which was indicative of how Lindsey Gage controlled the tempo of the game and all. And being a student of the game like Brian was, he knew all the little intricacies in that, as well as they had Alan Westover, who became a championship coach, and also Bruce Palmer, who became a championship coach. So all three of them played together, and I had to battle with them over the years when I was playing in Geelong. And I'm proud to say that I kind of waxed them a little, quite a bit during that time. And of course, when they became National League players, I was in Geelong. The team basically wanted to make a change in 1984, and they didn't honor my contract, and it ended up that Casey Jones, who was a Victorian player, Ken Richardson, who came in as he was one of the all-time greats, God bless him, passed away, and they brought in Bruce Palmer, Alan Westover, and Gorgon to replace me. I went to Brisbane, and then we just happened to pull it off and win the championship in '85 with Leroy Loggers and Ronnie Ratliff, Larry Stingstock, John Dodge, we had a pretty good team up there. So I was pretty happy to go back to the place where I started my career here in Australia and win a chip, and had Geelong up there watching. So because they didn't make the playoffs that year, so that was kind of a special moment.
Been good to see. Nice. Well, liking that jersey there, Wood. So, well, look, I'm hanging a CJ jersey behind me as well, Cal. I've got a pretty crazy jersey collection. I was never able to get the 55 Wildcats one there. So I've got the old Sydney Kings CJ there as well. So look, he started with my Wildcats in 1994 there, and as I mentioned, really one of the most successful players in NBL history, winning an equal record 6 titles there as a player. So just an amazing effort there. Obviously playing with Perth, Brisbane, Wollongong, Canberra, Sydney, New Zealand, of course. So yeah, just thought we'd represent obviously Bruton on the jersey there. And I'll stand up and show you the one I'm wearing today, Cal. So one of your old teammates. So you have mentioned his name already. So one of the old teammates there. I'll show you what I'm wearing today.
Okay.
For all our audio listeners that can't see Robbie, he's got the Wildcats jersey on.
Okay, Mike.
Mike Ellis.
Mike the Gap. I call him the Gap. Mike, when I came, well, actually, when we were coming into the league in 1982 with Geelong Cats, the Perth Wildcats was coming in the league at the same time. Yep. And our very first game was against them in Perth on the ABC under the lights. And them lights in that Perry Lake Stadium was hot as it could possibly be. And we had a very good game. That was James Crawford comeback game because he had tore up and he was out for pretty much 12 months. And he came back. Well, he actually came back sooner. Came back in about 9 months. And he played with a bandage on his leg, but we were able to have a good win against Perth. And then, of course, we went straight to the championship game. We lost to West Adelaide Bearcats, who were loaded with Leroy Loggers, Al Green, Ken and Peter Ally, Ray Wood. They had a top squad, and we lost by 6 points. And then, of course, we went on to play in the semifinals twice. I went to Brisbane, played in the grand final twice. And then the opportunity came up for me to get the job in Perth, and joining Mike and all the locals, Trevor Torrance and Eric Watterson, and Dan Hickett was there, who was my first
the big fella.
Player. Yeah, we played in Brisbane together. Steve Davis. We had to put together a pretty good team. I had to do the right recruiting to get the mix right. Craig Fitzsimmons. We had a team that was pretty hungry for some success, and I never forget we started out running on the track. They thought that was a bit crazy. Like we was on the old Perry Lakes Olympic track and running around 400s and 200s, and we actually ran a relay against all the professional teams there, and we won it with Trevor Thomas being the anchor. He was fast on the track.
Was. Yeah.
So yeah, I think having that jersey on, and like I said, this was the one. If I may show you, that was I don't know if I can show. I can't show you the back. I don't know how to flip that.
Oh, good.
But we got all the names of all the Wildcats on the back of this jersey, and this is really a nice little memento that you should always keep. So my boy's hanging up in there in the room, and it's pretty nice actually.
Very cool. Look, someone like Ellis as well, being their captain from that inaugural season in 82, as you mentioned, he held that position for 10 of the 11 seasons that he played. Obviously was the captain for the Wildcats' first championship there. So, and of course had, championship stints as a coach as well there. So, he's definitely considered a legend of Perth basketball, right, Cal?
No, definitely. Most definitely. His dad was a guy that's really for the success of the Wildcats. To get into the competition initially, God bless him, when he passed away, we actually put forward a proposal to name the award after him, the Ellis Award for the MVP. I'm proud to say I won that one year in 1989. Mike was really a standout example of what a Wildcat should be about. He was tough, gritty, and played the game the right way. Having played against him in Victoria, because he played with the Chelsea Gulls. I think they were the Gulls they call in Victoria when I was playing for Geelong. So I played against him a couple of times then, and there was just a coincidence that when everything came up and Bob Williams took over the team and he contacted me and asked me, would I like to interview for the position? I said definitely. And when I got the job, seeing all the Ellises, Brett, Glenn was my guy. He was really a hard, passionate, energetic type player. Brett was my sparring partner. I played against him every practice. Before
Which was the one that had the accident, Cal? One of them lost
that,
part of an ear in a water
that was
skiing
Glenn.
accident, right? That was Glenn. Okay, yeah, I definitely
And
remember that as a kid seeing that.
jokes
Yeah.
you know, he used to pull off all kinds of, make bets like, I bet you I can bite my ear, lick my ear. And then everyone like, yeah, right. Really? Your tongue is not that long. And then he'll pull it off and he'll collect the money. So he was that type dude. He was always keeping the team in stitches. Mama Ellis, she's a rock. She was one that really carried all uh, the personality of all of them, and she represented, the late husband Gordon, to the highest, possible way. And I think that's why the Ellises now have a room at the Jack Bendat Stadium. That's always going to be there. They got the um, Mike Ellis Award. The Gordon Ellis Medal, but Mike always presents it.
Yeah.
So, the Ellis family is entrenched in the Wildcat history, and that's always great to see.
Look, definitely great to talk about some of those old names. Of course, he had a son that played in the league as well. Didn't quite have the success. Didn't quite have the success that your son did, but yeah, he did make the league, of course, in Cody. So.
Yeah, Cody played with Wollongong, with the Wollongong Hawks for
And Sydney.
years, and Sydney, and then he also. I was disappointed they didn't get an opportunity to play with the Wildcats,
Yeah,
but
me too.
he did play with my son for a number of years at the Sterling Senators.
Yeah. Recently retired, actually. He retired at the end of last season. Yeah.
Him and Austin still hang out quite a bit. They were 1-2 combination there.
Nice, yeah.
So it's good to always have that relationship, and particularly when the years start clocking up, you start to reminisce a little bit and think about the good times. And those guys definitely being the younger generation, they got a chance to have an opportunity to play at the highest level.
Absolutely. Well, no, I really appreciate that. So, look, we've got a lot of stuff we want to chat with you, Cal. So, really excited to, I guess, get into it a little bit and, take a bit of a trip down memory lane there. So, look, something we do like to ask our guests is just a simple one, really, but how you discovered your love for the game and who were your early influences in getting into basketball?
Well, I grew up in New York City and, Brooklyn early in my career. I lost my dad. I say early in my career, early in my life. I lost my dad at 7 years of age. He was killed at his place of work in a robbery, and I had two younger sisters. Well, my mom was pregnant with 9 months with my baby sister, and I had a sister that's intellectually handicapped, that's albino, and we only 10 months apart. So we grew up together. Single mom, she struggled the first few years after my father's death. We didn't have a lot of money. She didn't work because of having to look after us, and we had to go through court cases to try to get some benefits from my father's death, and we finally did. So she was able to buy a home for us in Queens.
Yeah.
That's when my love for basketball started, and baseball and football. I was a quarterback in football. I had a Black American coach who really drilled to me about the facts of life and everything like that. I had a white baseball coach who was very influential in my life, Chuck Feinstein. The black coach name was Dick Bethel. And my basketball coach was also a Caucasian, white American named Jerry Sloan. And they really took the mantle of being my surrogate pops, So I had three dads, really, and I played all sports all year round because my mom wanted to make sure I was occupied and staying out of trouble. And she had her hands full with my two younger sisters. So uh, playing the sport in New York, you get a chance to play high school basketball. And when you play high school, you're actually playing against all the top players in the city. A lot of those guys going on to the NBA. I started at the under 14 level, made the all city under 14 team. after just playing night and day at the park. I used to shovel the snow up the courts and go practice by myself, that kind of thing with my gloves on because my hands was so cold. But whenever I had a chance to get into the gym, I did. Once I made the all city team. I got probably just 3, 4 scholarship offers, so not any high profile schools. It was locally, and my mom wanted me to get away from New York at that point. She was paranoid that something would happen to me, and so I hung out with this postseason champion named Rudy Jackson, who was playing for this team called the Salukis. And I was selected to be the point guard there. I used to set him up, and we used to win a lot of games. And then all of a sudden, I got Rudy got the scholarship to go to Wichita, and they asked him, well, anything else we can do for you? He said, well, I really would like to go to college with my man Cal. And I was like, dang, that's cool. And so they offered me a scholarship. And we drove out to Wichita. I'll never forget it. Once we landed, we set up in our little apartment with the coach that became the assistant manager of Wichita. And then we had to take an exam over the summer while we were working. And Rudy flunked the exam, so he couldn't get into Wichita State. He flunked the entrance examination. I passed it. And so he had to go to Hutchinson Junior College. And then the coach was livid. He was like, Dag, I recruited the 6'9" dude. I got this little midget, 5'7". And I went on to make the freshman team, and I went on to start. And so at the end, I think he respected what I brought to the table, and I actually captained the team my last 2 years at Wichita State, and it was one of the 1,000-point scorers at the university, and represented the Missouri Valley Conference and Wichita State in Brazil, where they nicknamed me the Pele of U.S. basketball. So I was trying to stay over there and make some money, but my mom said if I didn't bring myself back there, she'd send somebody over there to shoot me. So I get back and finished my career at Wichita State. I also, my last year, I had my son CJ born. So that was always a challenge to be a dad and finish up your school work while you have to work as well. And I pursued a professional career at San Antonio Spurs. I didn't get drafted, but I got invited to a free agent camp, and I was able to go in there with 100, and it was like 110 players there, and they had a 4 day camp, and on the last day they cut it to 5, and I was one of the 5, and then they brought us back the whole 5 along with the draft choices and free agents, and they cut it to 3, and I was one of the 3. And I came back from veteran camp with George Gervin and Larry Keenan and Dr. K, they call him, and Bill Pulse and Mike Gale. They had a Louis Dampier. They had a top squad because they were one of the better teams in the ABA, and the ABA and the NBA merged. And that was in 1977. And I missed out after playing 5 exhibition games and doing quite well, but they had Paul Silas, who was on injured reserve. They brought him back, Captain Late. He was like one of the better players in the league. And then they had to let me go. So I went back to New York, taught school for a year. We're working with disadvantaged kids. And then they brought me back to Kansas City to try out with the Kansas City Kings. And Nate Archibald had just left. And he was just
They needed a point guard replacement, right?
yeah. Well, Billy McKinney, and I've been in touch with him lately. He was one of the guys they took on board. He just got his jersey retired at Northwestern, but he's a good mate. We've been in touch, for a while now. And they've also had Marlon Redmond, who actually came to Australia and played for the Wollongong Hawks. He was a 6'5" guard, played for San Francisco. They won 40 games in a row, 49 games on the trot. And they had who was the third guard? They had 3 guards there, but anyway, I kind of went back to Wichita, started working, started hauling trash, and I used to say that trash was my cash. I had my own truck, and I go pick up 250 stops a day and take the barrel and dolly into people's backyards, dump all their trash cans, take it to the truck, dump it in, then go across the street, do the same. And I did that for like 9 months. I got stronger picking up a lot of garbage cans, you know. And of course, I played in the local 6 foot and under league, and that kept me really busy. And of course, once all that transpired, the snow came. It started to get harder, and I got that phone call that someone that saw me at the Kansas City camp, who turned out to be this Dr. David Atkins, was the director
Mm.
in Brisbane. He brought out
Oh,
probably
yeah.
10 Hall of
Oh,
Famers,
yeah.
Yep.
and he gave me the opportunity to come to Brisbane. So that's how my career started in
Hey,
1970.
Cal, I've got to wind it back just slightly and ask about the George Gervin experience there. He's someone that I've sort of really enjoyed, very early days watching him. What was it like being in sort of his presence?
He was unbelievable. Like,
Okay.
he was, 6'7", thin as. It looked like he had to jump around the shower to get wet. But he had all kind of moves, and the finger roll, of course, is what he was known for.
Yep.
His touch off the glass, he can bank shots from the corner. That's
Yeah.
how his touch was, and he had a lot of confidence in me. He said, "You keep going, little fella. I like you. I want to play with you." And he kept me up. Matter of fact, I spoke to him a couple years ago. He rang me out here just to see how I was doing, and he actually brought a team here to Australia to play the George Gervin All Stars. They played here, and because I was in Tasmania, he actually brought the team to Tassie. So I love playing with him and Dr. K in practice. Oh man, it was just we just lit everybody up, and I got a chance to. I thought I was really gonna make the team. I was that confident that George and Larry and even Louis Dampier, who I used to go against in practice. He couldn't stay in front of me. I was way quicker than he was. So my thing was, confidence. Once I got going, I knew these guys, liked my game. I thought I was in. After we played Pete Maravich and Gail Goodrich one game, then I played Matt Calvin and David Thompson, and I kind of had good games. Calvin Murphy and Rudy
Wow.
Tomjanovich, and Calvin Murphy was an idol of mine as well. One Calvin going against another Calvin until Rudy Tomjanovich set a back pick on me in the backcourt because I was picking Calvin up full court. They didn't like that. Because he was strong right handed. He liked to go left. So I was frustrating them a little bit. So they rung my bell to make sure I wouldn't be doing that too much anymore. And after that, I got cut, and that was just I was shattered initially because I thought I was there. I actually told
Yep.
my mom to start, looking for a new house because I'm bringing home the cake now, that kind of thing. And when it didn't happen, I was pretty devastated. I had a little turn during that period, and I struggled for about a good 6 months, and then got the job teaching school and what have you, and kind of brought me back before I went back to Wichita. So yeah, now I got fond memories of George Gervin. He was a great ambassador for the game. Obviously, he's one of the all time greatest players. Top 50, top 75. He'd be all that.
Yep. Yes. Well, let's
Class.
maybe take it away from basketball for a second, Cal. I wanted to ask you something, right? I mean, the 1960s and 70s, it represented a period of large-scale protests in the United States. The civil rights movements, women's liberation, student movement. A lot of things were going on. I wanted to ask you, what was it like growing up as a young black man during that period in Queens, New York?
Well, without a father, very tough.
Yep.
And I had a sister that was albino that some people were very ignorant about. She couldn't see very well, but she had a photographic memory. So if she met you once, she could recall your names and what have you. So we were in the same class pretty much. I used to take her to school every day, and then the black kids, because we in an all black neighborhood, they used to kind of insult me and say, "Yo, you better let go of that white girl's hand." And I was like, "What white girl? That's my
Yeah.
sister," and ended up getting into fights, protecting her because she couldn't, like I said, see very well, and she couldn't protect herself. And so at one stage, I got suspended from school from beating this kid up pretty badly. Yeah, he tried to touch her up and stuff, and I wasn't having it. And I actually got suspended. So I went home and acted like nothing happened. Come home, go pick up my sister, bring her home, and I used to pretend like I'm going to school. I'll take her and I'll go hang out in the laundry. and wait for the mailman because I knew they were going to send a letter, and I told them, "Oh, I'm sick today. Let me just get the mail, man,
Yeah.
so I could intercept the letter, that was coming home, so my mom wouldn't find out because she would just kill me." And of course, I pulled it off until one day scared the heck out of me. She actually came to the laundromat because it was wintertime, and she went to do the washing, and I had to hide between the two dryers because I didn't have a chance to run out. And she stayed in there doing all the washing and the drying
Yeah.
while sweating between the dryers, and people walking by looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Shh." So, so yeah, the '60s was tough. Obviously the assassination of Martin Luther King,
Yep.
and then Robert Kennedy, who the Kennedys, were staunch supporters of human rights and what have you. Uh, yeah, we struggled because we didn't have a lot, and we moved about 3 or 4 times because my mom we couldn't afford the rent, and we would pack up and move to another place. And my mom's she had a brother that used to help us out a little bit, and then we finally, like I said, my mom was in the process of suing the gas station in which my dad was killed, and then we finally got a settlement which enabled us to get a home. But it was the '60s was no joke. I was pretty much a loner at that stage. I used to play by myself a lot,
Yep.
my cousins, but we didn't go into the white neighborhoods until probably '68, and then I used to get chased home. uh, and one time I was caught, and they actually lit a fire around me. Um, and this lady came out and put it out and chased everyone away. Never forget. And then my coach then started driving me home in a way because
Yeah.
I go after school centers and night centers and win the trophies. We used to play dodgeball and basketball, and whenever we go dodgeball, they come looking for me. They come to throw the ball. I guess that's how I got my quickness and speed. I had to run all the time, and then run home after the center closed because they was chasing. There he is, get him! And I used to run to what we call the Mason Dixie line, and once I got past there, they wouldn't come because the other side is all black. They didn't want to get caught on that side of the tracks either. So yeah, it was a tough environment in those early days.
So when you speak of all those hardships you went through in the 60s and 70s, as you said, it was a tough environment. You would have never thought that, you get on a plane in 1979, arrive here, you've spent nearly 50 years down under, you've received the Order of Australia medal, as Robbie alluded to. What does this country mean to you now, Australia?
Oh,
When you look back on all that, yeah,
well, I'm an Australian citizen. I have been
yeah,
for 1982, so over
yep,
years. And I had to renounce my U.S. citizenship in order to
I've heard,
get
yeah,
ready to obtain Australian citizenship. And actually, last August, I tried to go back to the U.S. after being back more 15 times or so. And last 2022, I took my whole family back. This time, they wouldn't let me on the plane. They wouldn't let me get on the plane in Canberra. They told me that my visa's been denied. So it was unbelievable. I was devastated because I was going over to meet a professor to promote World Basketball Day.
yep,
They stopped me in my tracks at the airport. So I actually went to Tassie to visit my family, my boy Brooklyn there. And then I went to Adelaide to visit CJ. Then I went to Perth to visit, also just to get the sadness out of my heart because I couldn't go see my sisters. And
yeah,
um, yeah, it was, when I think about, Australia now, it's, 44 years and I've been involved in the game. I've had the odd jobs because I couldn't get a coaching job. Very disappointed after putting so much effort and time in developing the game. You get the reward from the government, but you don't get the reward from the fraternities, if so to speak.
yep,
Got adulation through all the fans and all that recognize my efforts, but I've never been offered a job, that I didn't sort of apply for. Like you just been interviewed for state jobs, coaching here in Canberra, even. And they say, "Oh, sorry, got someone else that we feel is better qualified." I said, "Geez, I want to coach. Yeah, I won a championship as a coach, and I can't get a job coaching a rep team in under 18s or under 20s." So what I did was decided when things got tough like that, I had to take the odd jobs to support my family, so I was in Perth. When I went back from Hobart, no one would give me a job back there. I ended up unloading trucks down South Perth. I ended up on a postie bike for 10 months, living the mail.
You got any photos of that, Cal? I'd love to see a photo of
Yeah, I got
that.
that. Yeah, I do have with my bags on my little motorbike, on my helmet, and obviously depressing when you uh, a national title for the town you've been in. I still took up the opportunity to coach locally. I took Joondalup Wolves job. They offered me the job to coach in the state league. I had young Danny Mills at the time. He was 12, 13, 14 years old. Now he's the head of the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been difficult because of the lack of recognition when I felt I've done so much for that program. But sometimes you just got to keep it rolling. But I don't want people to feel that they can just step on my name when I put more time and effort into developing that than I think most. At all different levels, because I was a player coach, I was a playing general manager, bringing in millions of dollars for the program. I was also a general manager and championship coach there. And then I became the general manager when everything was all done. And we had moved in the entertainment center and we drawing 8,000 people every game. And you got 7,000 season ticket holders. And I continued to always go back and promote it. But then I had to roll up my sleeves and recognize that, if I'm going to keep my hand in the game, and I've seen so many others that don't want to know about it, like a Leroy Loggers don't want anything to do with basketball at the moment. He's
Yeah.
just now coming around, but I've seen so many guys like that just walk away, and I refuse to let that happen. So I just started coaching the kids again.
Yeah.
Even today, I'm running a young under 12, under 14 futures program for basketball ACT, and I had 160 kids show up at the trials. So, and I run that with my sons. My five boys are all involved in the game. I have played it. My youngest son has been in all the rep teams from under 16 onward. Dante, he wants to go to America. Brooklyn's in Tasmania playing for the University of Taz. Also the Chargers in the NBL 1. He's 20 years old. The next one is Austin, who's 43, and he's a lifetime member in the SBL in West Australia for his devotion to the Sterling Senators and what have you. And he played on a few teams there. CJ, of course, we mentioned. He done it all, but a little bit sad on what happened.
Definitely.
Mm.
I got my feelings on that, but and then of course Elliot, my oldest, and he's my stepson, but he's been with me since he was 18 months old. He's in New South Wales at Tyree, and he runs the PCYC Learn to Play programs. He's been there for 8 years, developing young kids there, and particularly in the indigenous space. So and I have a daughter. I should mention her. I can't leave her out. She's a social worker, graduated from Australian
ANU.
ACU.
ACU. Yeah.
So she's here in Canberra and she's working in that space. So yeah, Australian Catholic University. So we all kind of doing our thing because they're in 5 different states. I get a chance to go check them out. But basketball has been the vehicle. Every 2 years I try to run a camp and bring my whole family together. It's like 14, 15 of us now. And the grandkids, CJ's got 3 boys, 2 with special needs, and Rio, who's the oldest, who's now representing SA in the under 18 champs coming up to Brisbane in April. Austin has 2. He's got one of my, he got the youngest grandson, Zai. He's already loving the game.
Yep.
Granddaughter who's just turned 17, and she's going to be a star. She's into the technology side of things. So yeah, my thing is to bring them all together. We run a basketball camp. We get all the kids involved over a 4-day period, and then we have a holiday together for another week or so. And that's my way of trying to keep my family together because I don't have any other family here other than the fan base that I kind of and the boys fan base and Shakira's that we can actually call family, you know. So it's a good thing. Basketball's been, I can't say enough about what it's provided for my family. But having to start all over again and developing the juniors, making videos. You know, I was the first to run camps, bring kids in from all over the country in Geelong. I
Yeah.
was coaching. Then I went to Brisbane, did the same thing. I remember in Orchid Flower Stadium hosting a camp there with 400 kids. You know, on a two-court stadium, I'm responsible for organizing it. You know, as a director of coaching, and then going to Perth and doing the same thing. What I learned from Brian Curl, who was a great mentor for me, doing the same thing in Perth when they never had things like that happening, and then to build it up to the point where, gee, we win the championship, we got a parade, we got everything going, and I'm told, you know, sorry, you don't, you know, we want to move you on to become the CEO, and I'm like, my first time ever being a non-playing coach, and we win the championship under a lot of pressure. All I want is 1 year to see if we can do it again because we won it with only one import because Jeff, big center, got hurt during the semis, and never took part. And for us to win it with one import, then they bring out Pete Hansen trained with us all that year to help us stay up. So we got some physicality when Jeff went down. But he came in, and Andrew Vlah.
Is it breaking up for you, Robbie?
So,
Him and Andrew Vlahov and Pete Hansen with the current team, they won back to back. And I had sold most of the sponsorship that year along with Derek Conway and we never missed a beat. And then, of course, I felt like I really wanted to coach. So that's when I decided I'd pack up and go to Tasmania because the opportunity opened up. Dave Atkins, who was the guy who brought me to Australia, said, I think this would be a good opportunity for you. You should try it because you're not doing anything there. And that was probably a good decision. Yeah. It got my appetite back. Yeah. Can you hear me?
yes, Wood's frozen or not?
No, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yep, real good.
So yeah, everything, you know, basketball in Perth took me to obviously a quality level. I think I was probably one of the winningest coaches in the competition back then. But then now you got to go to the bottom teams because that's the only one that would give you an opportunity. So Hobart was one of the perennial cellar dwellers. I think they had one winning season during their entry into the league. And then I went to Canberra, who was really on the bottom at that time. And then I went to West Sydney. They were on the bottom at that time, and I'm responsible to try to raise it up. And in Canberra, when I finally got them to the point where I thought we can win the championship, they shut us down. So that was really tough, you know. So yeah, the career's kind of been a little sour toward the end, you know, because of the mishaps that came about. But that didn't never take away my love for the game. You know, I think the basketball is in a good space, and I try my best to still add my value to it and my experience, of course.
It's just freezing up a little bit for me. Is it fine for you, Robbie?
It's all good. It's all good. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, that's pretty
Very
much my story now. I have a foundation, the Bruton Basketball Foundation, which is now moving the needle a little bit for disadvantaged kids. CJ, Austin, and I ran a program in Bendigo for long-term disengaged, unemployed adolescents, and we sort of brought a program there that was we call SWAG. It's an acronym for skill set, work ethic, attitude is your altitude, and setting goals. And we use basketball as the tool of engagement. And we had 15 participants, and out of those 15, 8 of them got jobs straight away. So that was something different for us. CJ's obviously still coaching his son, but I think he's pretty keen. If an opportunity presented itself, he would probably look at it. But he's looking at some business opportunities, and Austin is working for a national program called APM, who Australian Personnel Management, and they're the ones that work a lot in the indigenous communities, helping them get employment opportunities. So So yeah, we're just trying to keep the family together and do things productively that we can look back on and be proud about.
How do you decide where to have Christmas each year, Cal, with everyone scattered around the country
Yeah.
like they are?
Well, we rotated.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
Christmas in Adelaide. We've had a Christmas in Queensland. It's where we rotate. But being that this year is going to be my 70th, I think we're going to try to organize Christmas here in Canberra.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, let's take it back a little bit, Cal. Obviously, we know you started off with the Bullets in that inaugural NBL season, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your time in Geelong there. So, of course, you ended up in Geelong in 1982 as a player coach. Something we just certainly don't see these days. You won Coach of the Year. You guys made the grand final in your first season. Talk to us about how much of a challenge it was doing those dual roles. And what are your memories of those Supercats teams?
Well, they became super after I left. They were the Geelong Great Shape Cats whilst I was there. But my focus was on first. I used to prepare myself. 6 o'clock wake up is common for me. Now, as I'm older, I get up at like 4:30. But 6 o'clock wake ups. I used to get out on the track or the oval and do my running, do my fitness, my push-ups, my sit-ups. And then I go get my shots up at a gym that was right in back of my house. I wouldn't leave the gym until I make my 100 straight free throws. That was always the goal. One time it took me a long time. The wife had to come rebound for me, to get me out of the gym. The Geelong Cats was probably where I played some of my best basketball. My first year in 1980, they recruited me because they wanted to be Geelong wanted to be in the NBL. So they asked me they'll bring my family back because Brisbane didn't want to in 1979 going to 80. They said they'd love to have me back, but they couldn't afford to bring my family. So I said, well, I can't come back. And I went to pick up my award in Melbourne for being the leading scorer of the competition that year. And then Geelong officials were there, and they said, would you mind coming down to spend a weekend in Geelong? Rex Stewart, God bless him, he's a late, he passed away a number of years ago. He was the one that was recruiting me along with another guy named Robbie Gannon. They were the two executives. He's passed as well. They said, we'll bring your family out. And if you like, you can bring two mates with you that can play because we want you to get into the National League. We want to get into the National League. So I said, great. So I brought my homeboy from New York, Johnny Rebels, and I brought my teammate from Wichita State University, Steve Kalasinski. And we immediately came out and made a difference. We went to the grand final in our first year. We lost to St. Kilda, who was the National League champions, and they had all the Australian representatives, Larry Singstock, Andy Blickass, Robbie Kadee. They had all the name guys. And we just lost to them by a point. And that was big. And they had American. That was probably they recognized one of the best players ever. His name doesn't pop up, but his name is Rocky Smith.
Yeah.
A left-hand guard, can shoot it from Oregon State.
Body nudges on the show not so long ago, and we asked him who's the greatest ever player you've seen, one of the greatest ever players you've seen come to who's your top five, we asked him. And Rocky was right up there, wasn't it?
Was.
Right? Yeah.
Rocky and I had some battles.
Yeah.
I remember him dropping like 44, and I got 38, and we lost. And the owners came to me like, "Oh, you're not the best. We thought we had the best player and all that." So the next day I went out and dropped 52. No, I'm sorry. I dropped 38 and we won. Rocky had 44. I dropped 38 and we won. They came and said, I thought we had the best players because they were thinking scoring and all that. So the next game I go out and drop 52 and Rocky had like 40. And they go, oh, we lost. I was like, dang, I can't win. Like, what's up? But he was a good mate. He went to the World Championships and stayed in Brazil. He never came back. But yeah, we had the battles with Brian Curl and St. Kilda all those years. But Geelong was a great place. I started skill schools there, having kids locally play every day. A number of those kids went on to play in the National League. We had camps there. Every school holiday we'd fly. We wouldn't fly. They flew in to $10 camp. It was a living camp for a week. all the proceeds and everything went to the club. So I was just on a bicycle riding around the town, but it made for good popularity. Every Wednesday, I had to work in bingo to help raise the funding and stuff. So I love my time in Geelong because you played in the best competition. The Melbourne comp every week, Wednesday, we had to drive up to Melbourne. It's an hour drive. We played, whether it's a 6:30, 8:30. I think it was 6:30, 8:30 games. And man, they were competitive. You got Nunawading inspectors who St. Kilda, Coburg, Frankston, all these clubs were in the National League eventually. So tough competition. All the better Melbourne players obviously participated in it. Melbourne Tigers was part of that group as well. And Geelong, we won a championship at Siebel. Most of them played in the Southeastern Australian Basketball League, they called it, where
Yep.
only Tassie and Melbourne and Adelaide were involved. We played in what they call a Converse Super Challenge, where they pitted the best teams that played out of Adelaide. We won that as well. I was the MVP in most of those and the leading scorer. And won the Allen Hughes Medal, which was a big-time medal to win back then. He was recognized as one of the better players in before my time. So my elevation in Geelong really helped me understand the game. And then when we got to the National League and went to the grand final, that kind of lifted up again. We won the Western Division twice, both in 83 and 84. 83, they made, even if you finished on top, not like today's setup, you get a bye. No, we had to go travel to Canberra and play, and we were the top team.
Mm.
And then you came and played a game in Geelong, and then the third game you had to go to Melbourne and play. And so we lost 2 of those 3 games, so we were out of the comp. So we lost in 83. We lost again in 84 after being 21-2 for the year. We had a great team. Danny Morsul, Brad Dalton was Olympians. We had Wayne McDaniels, who was one of the prolific scorers, James Crawford, myself, and all the locals, Craig Herbert, Jeff Saunders, Bruce Hope. We had a real good team, but I felt that we just got pulled at the wrong end. I was a player coach, so what I did do was had an assistant coach that called all the shots during the game. But I prepared the team all week so I can go out and be a player. And I like to think, one of the better players in the league. So I didn't want to have my head cut off while my team goes. So I had focused on just trying to make sure the team ran properly. And yeah, we've been unlucky. We lost a Canberra team, which was pretty good too, with Herb McKeechin, him and I were the first 2 Black Americans in the country.
Yep.
The very first year, and we didn't see nobody else. We came back like, yo, you see anybody? Nah, man, it's just us. Right? And then, of course, because of the success we had, more Black Americans started coming out to play because they want to match up with us. And before you know it, and as you look around the league now, every team pretty much has one. Geelong gave me a chance to really get the landscape of the league. We played Tasmania as well. I should have mentioned them. We went down to Tassie and played like a 3-game trip. So I enjoyed my time in Geelong. My son was born there, Austin, and I bought my first home in Australia. So I was really proud that I was able to do that. I brought my mom out. She had never traveled on a plane other than going to see me in Wichita once. And then she's flying to Australia. She couldn't believe how far that was. But she stayed for a couple months. And then I went to Brisbane. I went back to Brisbane where I started and won my first championship. So Geelong gave me a lot to launch on. I won the MVP, as I mentioned, in the Victorian State League. I represented Victoria in the, what they call it, the Victoria versus South Australia competition. We won that a couple times, and then going back to Brisbane and being able to represent Australia because my citizenship, I waited 3 years to become eligible once I renounced my U.S. So I was able to represent Australia against the Pac-10 All-Stars. Never forget, American guy. And they couldn't believe I was playing on the other team. They were like looking at him like, dang, is he an Aboriginal guy? And when I started talking to them, like, come get some of this, they like, oh, where you from? I said, I'm from New York. And they go, oh, wow, were you able to do that? And then in 1987, that was the best game. I played against the Big East All-Stars in Perth, representing Australia. And I top scored that game with 27 against a few guys that went on to the pros from that team. So yeah, I enjoyed Geelong. Geelong gave me everything that I needed all the equipment, all the tools, the hard work I put in to develop myself as a player, coach. Because I was a student of the game, so I made sure I read everything. When I went to Perth, I was able to elevate it thanks to Kerry Stokes. He provided me with the finances to kind of elevate the team and everything else, and we were able to take the whole team to Hawaii. I made the connections with Magic Johnson and Pat Riley, and we went there to watch them prepare for their back-to-back. That's how we were able to raise the standard, I think, of Australian basketball, not only the Wildcats, but we had the whole team in Hawaii. And after 2 days, though, my mom passed away, so I had to leave. And we had already put Alan Black in place, where I became the playing general manager at that time. But I learned so much because Kerry wouldn't. He told me once I buried my mom, and I had to borrow the money from the club to do that because I was overseas at the time, and my sister and my family didn't have any money. So I did that, and he told me to stay there until I come back with a project. And I thought, wow, like I can't come back home. He said, no, I want you to bring a project. And then, so he gave me all the access to his offices in Dallas and in New York. And I was able to fly back and forward using his contacts. And the project I brought back was getting the rights to NBA entertainment through contacts I had personally in the NBA office. Ernie Grunfeld was one of my good mates. We played high school ball with each other, and he was working out of the NBA. And and what he was able to do was put me on to one of the gentlemen who actually worked with Michael Jordan at when he came into the league. But I was able to go get the rights to flip the NBA entertainment tapes from PAL from NTSC to PAL.
Yep.
We were able to sell them in Australia. So that's how NBA Jam came, and that's when Americans started coming. And then we brought back Michael Cooper and Mitch Kupchak to Perth to help build not only our on-court defense, but the off-court, with Mitch Kupchak being the general manager of the Lakers. So that's why I identify with the West Coast. And I said, we're going to be the West Coast Lakers. That was my whole pitch. And we got it really going. Like once Michael Cooper came out, I mean, the whole country was jealous,
Yep.
And then we started wearing the suits, and we looking the suit from the first part. They thought we were really a professional outfit. Later, I was obviously able to. Magic called me up here in Canberra and asked me could I bring the Canberra Cannons to Michigan State to play with him in his last game. And I was able to raise $60,000 in a couple of weeks to make that happen. So my experiences that I received from playing basketball here and coaching and administrating and being a general manager, I hold it in the highest regard that, my kids got exposed to a lot of that. And,
Yep.
Austin asked me could I coach him in the 3-on-3 tournament, the Gatorade, the first time they'd ever come over. Michael Jordan is going to supply you with all expense paid trip if you win your division. And Austin was like, yo, Pop, you got to coach us. So I coached him and his boys from Perth. We won that Perth leg, and then we came to Sydney. It was tough in Sydney. We had to play the Melbourne boys in Queensland, and we ended up beating them, and bang, off we go to see Mike. And, man, that was huge. Like, the boys, like, just a trip of a lifetime. And then Mike took me out for a night. That was great because he couldn't believe I was Australian. He was like looking at you like, where you from? I said, the same place you from, Brooklyn, Mac. And he looked at me like, oh, wow, okay. So yeah, the experiences I've gained from having basketball as my vehicle, it's just been unbelievable. But now I'm at a different stage. I'm trying to provide those same vehicles to the other young kids coming through.
Yeah.
And coaching under 12s, under 14s. I haven't had, like I said, opportunity to coach any state teams or anything like that, but I do go and the AIS through Peter Lonigan and Coach Robert. I can't Rob. Oh, gee, I can't think his surname right now. It's just blind, but he's the COE head coach.
Yeah.
Marty Clark is the head of the NBA Global Academy. So they invite me in when they bring in guest coaches and bring in all the national players. And just the other day, my son Dante brought all 5 of the studs over the house. So yeah, I get a chance to stay in touch with the game that way, and use my experience from having been involved with the game for 44 years to try to help the next generation achieve their goals. And that's my ultimate goal at the end of the day, to help particularly the disadvantaged kids. So through my foundation, we're able to do that and help these kids grow.
Robbie McKinley, I think that's who you're speaking of, right?
McKinley, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please forgive me, Rob. I just saw him last week too. But so many people that you meet, through the course of your journey, he's great. Like he don't take no punches. He works those kids really hard. They all respect him, and he makes the best possible players they can be. So
he got 2 guys in the NBL this year, and he's also about to get John Furphy in the NBA potentially next season. He's looking really good over there in Kansas. So, no, he's done a great job. Cal, I wanted to throw a date at you and see if you remember this date. So, the 28th of October, 1990. So, very special date there for Wildcats fans. So, Perth took on Brisbane in Game 3 that day there in the NBL Finals in front of a huge crowd at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. Wildcats went on to win by 23 and claim the team's first championship. So, firstly, thank you very much for that. Secondly, I just wanted to know how special this win was for you guys. Winning the first title for yourself as a coach, and look, knowing you guys would go back to Perth and literally have the keys to the city after that moment.
Yeah, that was a great win. It was, we had lost the previous 2 years to North Melbourne, and 88 and 89. They knocked us out of the semis.
Yeah,
getting past them in 89 was huge because. We obviously lost the year before, and then that game, we won 1-1. Yeah, because we had won at home, I think, and then we went there. They beat us in the second one. Then we had to play the third one in 89, and they beat us by 55 points.
I remember. Yeah.
And I wore 55, right? And Alan Black had me on the court at the end of the game. I was the oldest guy in the league. And I never forget, I tried to draw a charge. We down 53 or something, and I drew a charge on Scott Fisher. And he stepped on my chest, and I was holding his leg. And I told him, if you step on me one more time, you won't be playing in the grand final because I'm going to break your ankle right now. I had it in a lock with his heel and toe and stuff. So he was dragging me around trying to kick me off, and finally they were able to separate us, and we had a little chat about that in Hawaii. In Phoenix when he came to the game to watch CJ create history with the 36 in Phoenix. But that game got us over the hump. I felt like pretty much that was our championship game, that particular one, because it was really. It went into overtime, and Ricky Grace fouled out. We had to hold the fort. Mike Ellis and Trevor Torrance came up big that game. Steve Davis, Tiny and James were just doing their thing. But, they had a powerful team. That
they really did, yeah.
Melbourne. So we knocked them off, and because they were the champs, we felt really good about that. No, they weren't. I'm sorry. Adelaide was not Adelaide. Canberra was the previous champ, 88. But going to the grand final at home, we felt confident and against the Bullets. We beat them comfortably, I think, the first game. And then the second game, we had everything go wrong. We heading out to the airport, to the game. The cars, we came in cars. We got separated. We got caught by every stoplight, and by the time we got to the game, it was like a rush change on the court, And then it was pretty much a warm up, no stretch really, and bang, we in it. So they gave us a good spanking. And then they were up high. They felt like that was going to be them. And then of course the third game Kerry organized. We had meetings and Kerry organized a chartered bus, and we had police escort. So we just kind of cruised on in the game, and boy, we were focused and ready.
Yep.
I never forget we up by 18 or something, and then Ricky says I pulled them out of the game. He said, "What did we lose by? What's the biggest margin?" I said, "Oh, it was 22 or something." He said, "Put me back in," right? Because he wanted to beat him by 23, which is what that margin was. And I think that set the stage for where we were going to go from there. Like I said, I I basically predicted that we would be the team of the 90s. And as I mentioned, we did it with one import. We had David Close, who just was a young sharpshooter.
Radar.
Yeah. He's here in Canberra. And we have, the rest of the crew was just on point. Everybody was focused. Eric Watterson, I had him guarding Leroy Loggers, just trying to wear him like a skin. And Craig Evans, even, he was one of our rookies, and Rob Dempster. Those guys who sat toward the end of the bench, but they came in and they did their job. So that plane trip back was ridiculous. The boys doused me in beer, so I had to change all my clothes. We didn't have any champagne or anything because we had to catch a flight real quick, so it wasn't going to be any celebrating there. But on the plane, we had a ball going back, and of course, when we arrived, we had to be shuttled in a bus because the airport was packed. It was late night. I think it was approaching midnight or something, and everybody just unbelievable. The cameras, the TV, and then that whole following week was parties and celebrations, and then the parade, and then on into the city center. So to me, that was the highlight of my career at that point. We everybody was walking icons. Like you can go in a shop and get everything for free, just about.
Hey, Cal, I actually brought something for a bit of show and tell that I found in the wardrobe yesterday, so I'll just grab that.
Oh, okay.
Wildcats championship video from that first line. So I've actually got that and the back-to-back one there. So there's a few of those guys you mentioned on that team there, guys like Watto and, Dempster and Steve Davis and all these sort of guys. So, yeah, firstly, I'm surprised I've still got a VHS. I don't think I've actually got a video, anything to play it on. But, yeah, great memories of those teams there. So, and I think you're right. They were the team of the 90s. They were the team of the noughties and the 10s now, as much as Woody will probably disagree with me on some of those, but yeah.
Now, the team of the 90s definitely was the goal. I think there's an article on that, when I retired from playing. I think, having the nucleus of the team, I remember 89, the late Senator Peter Cook, who I actually lived with here in Canberra my first 7-8 months. He was the guy who, under his wing, he kind of brought me into the political arena and said, I can help you with the naturalizations if you so want to get your team stronger. So James and Tiny Pender was both interested. James Crawford, Tiny Pender were both interested in becoming Australian citizens. They had talked to me about that. How did I do it? And they didn't want to do it previously because they didn't want to renounce their U.S. And Tiny wasn't a U.S. citizen. He was
Bahamian.
Yeah, Bahamian. So, but in order for them to become it, Peter had to obviously know the Dr. T's, Dr. I's across the T's to get that done. And he gave me that information. So sure enough, I went to Tiny and James and said, hey, this is an opportunity. You guys become citizens, then you'll be in a better position to go and use your leverage, to go wherever you want to go. I'm sure y'all don't want to leave here, but it will give you some more chips on the table to bargain with. And they were all for it. Of course, once we announced it, now that opened the door to go get 2 more imports. And that's when both Kerry and Bob asked me to. That year I was going to be a playing general manager because they wanted me to step down, make a choice between playing or coaching, and I decided to play. And then after we lost by all the points, I said, "Well, I'm retired, and I'll go get the imports." But Alan Black wanted to get local guys, and they had us put our team on the board to so they can make a decision who was going to go get the import players. And they asked me to go get it because they were pretty happy with my pitch, and I came back with Ricky Grace, so
that worked out pretty well. Yeah,
it did. It did Wildcats, and Jeff Allen was he was a good egg too. He was a big fella, but unfortunately he broke down at the end. We didn't have him, so but whilst we didn't have him, as I mentioned, we had Pete Hansen training with us.
Loved him.
Yeah. Real hard worker, hardcore, and then. When the second year that he came in as a player, and then you bring in Andrew Vlahov, and you got everybody else still there. Now that team is hard to beat, So unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to lead them. But Mariano came in, and they had one of the best records again, and they won the chip.
Eastside Spectres, I reckon, was right. The Spectres in the final, yeah.
Yeah, they handled him pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So he wanted to bring in that Kent. I think he's a fella. Did he?
Kent Lockhart.
Kent Lockhart. Yeah, he was the guy they brought. He passed away, did he? I think, or not? One of those East Side guys. But yeah, Kent Lockhart was the guy who was a tough player, but I didn't think he was. I was in the run, starting to have some fun.
Of course.
I didn't see him running like that. So Ricky was the guy that Dave Atkins had put me on to and said for me to fly over and trial myself. So I flew to Iowa, and then we flew Ricky from Dallas to Iowa at Dave Atkins' house, and then I put him through the paces. I actually played him one-on-one. Yeah. He tells a different story about how he waxed me and all that. But he ended up getting a choice. He was, obviously a Hall of Famer and all that. Played for Australia, done everything.
Yeah,
and he was also a mentor for my son CJ because he got a chance to play against him and watch him and floor wipe behind him and pick up all the final points of being a PG. So,
do you think he's one of the best point guards to play in the NBL, Ricky Grace?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. He earned the stripes. He won 4 championships, and he led the team in a real calculating way. He was a real student of the game as well. He knew every player's tendencies around the place. He knew how to make his teammates better. He created easy baskets for those guys, and he was he was tough on the defensive end too. I came up with the term that he was so quick he could steal hubcaps off a moving car. But as he went through the mid '90s, everybody feared him. So and he always had a lot of talent around him. When you got a Fisher and a Vlahov and a Crawford, and then you're bringing in you got Anthony Stewart's coming in. You got you name it, and then the import players that they were able to get a hold of. He was able to just adjust his game accordingly. So yeah, he's one of the best of them. I mean, I seen him doing highlights on Derek Rucker the other day on the NBL and making it sound like he was that guy. But I was like, he didn't win no chips,
No.
but he was an MVP of the league. I think I know what my choice would be if I got a choice between being an MVP.
Sure.
Hey, and Ricky Grace went left every time, and still no one could stop him, right?
Lefter, and
that's it. That's it.
That was the 3 places he went. No, he was tough. He was tough, and I think again having the coaches have a coach on the floor like him. He played under Murray Arnold, he played under Adrian Hurley, played under Alan Black. All those guys he was able to win chips with. And I think that's the sign of a great point guard when you can bring in a new philosophy and a new, speaker to the team, and you still can adjust your game to make sure that you bring out the best in everyone else. So Yeah, the Wildcats, without a doubt, and the Sydney Kings later when CJ got, Hill obviously led the first one, then CJ was
Yep.
two times. Um, watching how both those guys, even when they were playing against each other, I thought CJ sort of figured it out. This is what I need to do, and he was the same thing. He gonna make all the players around him better.
Yep.
And then when it was his turn to light it up, bang, 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 and then it was all over. So him winning his 6 championships, I think that goes underrated a little bit because
Yep.
it's hard to do it with 3 different teams. I know
Definitely.
Ricky's done it with the same. Didn't have to move house. Didn't have to ship the family around.
Yep.
Have to do all that and do it in another country as well,
Yep.
which was great for New Zealand. They got their stuff established as
Yep.
a force in the competition. And then when he came back, he didn't have any jobs after that until he started up the Brisbane Bullets. So
Yep.
Larry Kesselman hired him as the first employee and asked him to put it all together. He went and got the general manager, Richard Clark. He went and got Andre Lamanis. He pretty much brought his New Zealand crew over to Brisbane, and at least got them going. They didn't obviously do much great things under that leadership, but at the same time, we got the program established back again, and we needed more teams in the league because
Yep.
NBL was really struggling back then.
So when we talk about some of the great guards that played in your time, I mean, your boy Al Green, obviously, you had a great relationship with him. I got to ask you, like, who are some of the toughest opponents you went up against during your playing days?
I think obviously Al was tougher. I
Yep.
played in '82. There was a guy by the name of Jerry Everett,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Newcastle Falcons.
Yep.
and he was really tough, like, probably the toughest because he was 6'4", jump out the gym, score on you like you weren't even there. Obviously he had a lot of inches on me, and he defended. I tried to bring him to Perth too. I wanted him to come play for me. Play with me. Unfortunately, he hit some hard times. He hit some
Yeah. I heard.
illness, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was one of the tough ones. I played against Owen Wells too. He was a 6'6" point guard, and I didn't guard him directly, but geez, he ran the show. He taught me a lot.
Yep.
Well, he played for Sydney Supersonics back
Sonics.
in the day.
Yep. Yep.
They were 19-3 or something that
Yeah.
year.
Tiny Pindo was on that team potentially as well, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, they had
Yeah.
5 Black Americans. That was the
Yeah.
first team that
Yeah.
actually had, and I had 5 Americans. I'm sorry. Tom Flavin was the one white American they had,
Yeah.
along with Kurt Firestone, Wayne Bird, and Owen, Tiny. They
Yeah.
had a crew. And Derek Polk. Shoot, they had
Yeah.
Polk as well, the big 7-footer. Um, let's see who else. Ronnie Ratliff was a tough point guard.
Sure.
Like, he didn't look like much. He
Yeah.
run around like a little shaggy
That's some
bat.
great hair. Yeah.
But if you blink and let him slip, he took a championship from me in '84, actually, because he just lit us up like with this jump shot, like, man. And that year, I thought we had the team that can win it with Wayne McDaniels. I mentioned Wayne and James and Brad Dalton and Danny Morsu. We lost to Leroy, Larry, Sibley, and Ronnie Rat. That was John George. That was a tough one to swallow.
What about someone like Phil Smythe, Cal? How does he sort of fit into that?
Can't leave him out. Yeah, Phil was probably the best
Mm.
point guard in the competition, and he was 3-time champion at that point, and captain of Australia. And I played with him in the Australian team, and sometimes we played together, But yeah, Phil was by far. Al Green was a scoring point. Phil was the general. He was probably the premier point guard that I played against, in terms of all around success and how he led his team. With Dave Nelson, Wade Kirchmeyer, he had a Tad Dufermeyer was with him, Herb, of course. you know, he got the most. Andy Campbell and Gary Ball. He got the most out of all those guys. You know, he made them really look good. And he wasn't a great scorer. He didn't have to. You know, he averages double figures, but he just controlled the tempo of the team, and basically you dance to his music. You know, so I used to try to speed him up. You know, all the time because that way he'll start sweating, and then he got to bring the hair back and not dry. Ray Wood was a tough guard too for Adelaide. He was one of my favorite guys to play against. He was tough, gritty. You know, didn't look like much, but man, he'll leave him open. He'll shoot your lights out as well.
Steve Carfino, did you get to face
I
him a
only
lot?
played against Steve, and Steve came out in '85.
Tasmania, I think initially,
Yeah,
right?
Hobart,
Yeah.
I missed him because one game we were away. We played. Matter of fact, I was hurt. Yeah, when he came out, I was hurt. We're Brisbane Bullets. I was with the Brisbane time. I had torn ligaments in my ankle, and they knocked us off. '86, I think was the first. '87, that was the first time I played against. I was with Perth. We usually won the game, but then I had to play for Australia, and when I missed the game, they knocked us off. You know, and him and Paul Stanley pound up. But yeah, Steve was one of the best ones. He only played like what 3
4 or 5
years,
years, 4 years maybe.
5 years. Well, '87 to '91.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
got hurt his back, and then he went into commentary.
yeah.
I'd say his jersey hangs up in Sydney.
Yep, sure does.
Yeah. Who else? There was a good. You know, my day, the guy named Donnie Ray Cruz was pretty tough. He was a high jumping point guard. He only played one season there, but he was nice to, you know, like you just kind of knew that, man. Don't sleep on because he's gonna jump, and nothing you can do about it because he's gonna put his old fella in your face. Right? 'Cause he get up that high and shoot his jumper. You just can just look at him, you know. Let's see for the straight, and Damian Keogh was tough, you know, for none of what inspectors. He and
yeah.
played Kings. Yeah, he was feisty and hard nosed. He didn't mind trying to beat you up a little bit and see what he could get away with, you know. But he was determined. You know, he was a
He
good
was a strong guy, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 6'3",
Yeah.
6'3", with nice body. Yeah, there was a handful of guys. I have to go through my little booklet and have a look at them. You
I
know.
think 92 when you were at Hobart as a player coach, you would have come up against Doug Overton potentially, right? When he was at Illawarra.
Yeah, we knocked him off down
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
Well, he went on. What impressed me, he went on and went to the NBA.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
I had Donald Whiteside with me.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Love Donald
Yeah.
Whiteside. Yeah.
And Donald was a good, nice point guard. You know, he went on and played Toronto and played with the Atlanta Hawks. And,
Yep. He
you
played
know,
State League as well, didn't he? Donald Whiteside.
in Western Australia.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Kalgoorlie.
Yeah.
I plucked him from because
Yeah.
Dave had sent him there to kind of hide him for me so I can have a look. And he was averaging like 41. I'm thinking someone gonna pick him up. Better hurry up. I had Ken McFadden, who was like one of the top players from Cleveland State.
Yeah.
But didn't work out. His attitude wasn't right. And Anthony Wells. So I let both of them go and brought in Donald and Joe Hurst.
Oh, yes. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I caught up with him last week too. That was pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, no, we in the back of the day, I think people sleep on the talent.
Yeah.
And that's the disappointment for me in terms of the current NBL. They wouldn't have a clue about these guys, you know,
And that's why we like to do what we do, Cal, as well. You know, like I said before we started recording, sort of maybe educate some of the people that, you know, are listening or watching that maybe don't know some of these names. You know, your Jerry Everett's and you know some of these sort of names we've spoken about there. So I totally agree. I think a lot of these guys that play maybe don't get the recognition they deserve there. So what I wanted to say, you obviously really appreciate your time. You've really given up a lot of time. We just had a couple of last questions. It's probably just about the current state of the league now. So one thing I wanted to ask you, especially being a Wildcats man there, look, it's about the MVP, Bryce Cotton. So we hear a lot of people say he's the best import to ever play in the league. I feel like you might be one of the most qualified person to answer that, given you were here from the very first season. And also the fact that you played with another absolute legend in Leroy Loggins there. Yeah, in your opinion, who's the best import we've seen out here?
Well, Leroy played for, 16 years?
Yeah.
17. No, 19. He played even longer. From 81 to. Well, he went to 81 to.
Early noughties, maybe?
Yep. So 81 to 2001. So he would have played 20 years here.
Wow.
So
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
like Cotton's what 8 years,
Mm.
Yep.
and he's won 3 MVPs and what have you. Leroy was without doubt the best player I played with in the NBL.
Yeah.
He can do it all. I wouldn't say Cotton is a stopper.
Yep.
Leroy, he did that. Like he would guard. You look at his frame and you say, "Oh, geez," like you can just run him over. But he was so smart, and it was so long. Like he could almost stand up and tie his shoes. His arms are so long, But in my mind, Clutch, he was the guy. Like he was pretty much money all the time. And when you played for the big prize, he was there. A lot like Cotton. I love Cotton's game. I just think, representing the small brigade, he's earned his right to be recognized as one of the best.
Yeah.
And if I had to put, you got Andrew Gaze always comes into the equation, who's the best ever. But in my mind, Andrew played for his dad, and all those years the offense was kind of catered for him, and he was able to sort of, no one's averaging 40 points a game, and he was able to do that. So you got to throw him into the equation as well, and he's won a couple championships. But in my mind, between Leroy and Cotton, this is a modern game now, and Cotton's by far, I think, the best player in the league. When I say by far, I mean he just shows it every time he steps on the floor. At the beginning of the year, the offense wasn't generated or focused on him, or putting the ball in his hands. Now they done figured it out, and now he's hard to stop. Except for Wollongong, kind of Illawarra has kind of figured out a little remedy there, and
They have. Yeah.
they've made it difficult for him. Which you can see the frustration come up a little bit, but still, from my opinion, I think he's definitely top 3 all time best. And I'll throw Andrew in there, because of the consistency of him scoring a bucket, and obviously having chips on his belt and having a team like he had with Brackey and Copeland and all that. Leroy back in the day, he didn't have that kind of talent, and he had to carry folks. So that's for 16 years he won his chips. He's won 7. Was he 7 in? He had 7 MVPs, I think. No, I'm sorry. Andrews had 7 MVPs. Leroy was what? It was something about 7, the number 7. Because everywhere he went, he won. Like he went to Adelaide and he won. Then he went to Brisbane and he won. And I think he went to 7 straight grand finals.
Yep.
Wow.
That was it. Like he went to the grand final from 81. I think they lost the semifinals down in Launceston. That was the first one because that was his first year. Yeah.
81 to 88 potentially, or 81 to 87. Could that have been right? Yeah.
81 to 88 because then they lose to.
Yeah. Right.
I think they lost to Canberra. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So 82 he was champion. 83 they lost to Canberra. 84 they lost to Canberra.
1 in 85, I think. Yeah. Obviously 1 in 85. Yep. And 87.
87 he beat us in
Yep.
Perth.
Yep.
And 88 lost to Canberra. So yeah, he was that guy. Like who leads a team to 7 straight grand finals?
Yep.
And 3 different franchises. So Brisbane, Brisbane, Adelaide, Brisbane. So I got to give Leroy the nod because of my personal relationship, having
For sure.
been on the floor with him. Cotton, I love his class. He's respectable. He recognizes the old school too. Like every time I see him, he kind of always acknowledges and dap me up. I saw him at the dinner. See him collect his MVP award.
Yep, you were there.
Yeah, I
At
was.
the end presented right at the end. So,
I got a chance to give out the Coach of the Year award
yeah.
to
So
Vickerman.
I saw that. Yeah.
But no, Cotton has got my. If you want to say the best point guard, like I think he surpasses Ricky in that respect because he's been that MVP. Plus, he's been that champion, and I think he's won less championship than Rick. But he's played half the years as Ricky
Yep.
too. So the way he looks after himself too, I think, and I like the way he carries himself. You don't see or hear too much about Cotton.
Classy individual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very classy, very um, no bull, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
He goes about his business, and I think when he speaks, we got little sayings in the states, like E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. When Cotton speaks, I think he gets everybody to tune in because he knows how to give gratitude and respect, and he knows that he's good like that too. So he's still one. He's one of the top three, and he's probably can move ahead of Andrew really when it comes down to winning chips and leading his team. I think before his career is done, he could move to number one. Who knows? I'm not sure if he's going to play 16 years though.
No.
Because you got to think back too that back then we were playing against 17 teams, 17 teams in the NBL at one point when Leroy was playing. And now you only got 10. So even though you're playing the same guys, they can prepare for you a little bit better. You can prepare for them too. So this year obviously been a little tougher for everybody because the league is a lot more even. But when you look at Phoenix and obviously Adelaide finished off the season, 50%. And then the other clubs, who was in New Zealand with the injuries and all that,
Yep.
weren't that strong.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll give Cotton his nod in the top 2, 3. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So you said 17 teams. Let's talk about those old days. And I always talk to Robbie, and it really annoys me because I'm a historian. I love statistics, right? It was a 48-minute game, and all the records that were set for so many years was based on 48-minute games, right? Now it's a 40-minute game. The state of the game has changed completely. It's all about pace and space. Let's shoot threes. The back to the basket, the post-up game is less prevalent in today's basketball globally, right? What do you think about the state of the game today? Is it heading in the right direction? With all of this, let's shoot threes, let's take ill-advised shots early in the shot clock, all of that stuff that you'd get benched for back in the day is now a good shot, right? So let's unpack that a little bit. What do you think, right?
I think the game's in a good place. I mean, it's the change. It's the culture. It's a culture change. When you start looking at Steph and Dame Lillard and everybody else that lights it up out there, you go, well, okay, I get it. I think when we played back then, you playing Friday night, you jump on a plane, you go to another state, you play Saturday night.
Yep.
You jump on the plane, you go to another state, and you play Sunday afternoon. So you got a 3-game. That trick can be, that could be going to play in Melbourne, going and play in Perth, and going and play in Adelaide, or go to Perth, Adelaide, and play in Melbourne. So those 3 games kicked you, and wasn't like you had meals prepared for you or anything like that. You eating a barbecue at the after the game at the venue, like before you go home and go to bed. So there wasn't a lot of money in it. So I thought that was hard yakking, and
Yep.
you have to try to prepare yourself. I was found to be even tougher because I had a family, and no one had a family in the competition when I was traveling around player coaching and had to go home to my family and make sure I get my boys, go take them to school and spend some family time. We played 17 teams. It was 9 in the West and 8. I was 9 in the East, 8 in the West.
Yep.
And you play everybody home and away. And then you play every other year you play home or away against the other conference.
Yeah.
So to me, it was physical too. Like I said, you had the Coburg Giants, Ray Borners, and the Illawarra when they had Borner, Bickman, and Bateman. Borner was it Borner, Bickman, the three B's.
Killer Bees.
Killer
Yeah.
Bees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those guys, you go in there and you guarantee you're gonna get slugged when you go to the hoop. They're not messing around. They got 15 fouls to give, and you definitely gonna get a half dozen of them for sure. So the game was much more physical. I think the state of the game now is elevated because of the classier imports that are coming out with
Yep.
reputable NBA experience or European. I think the Next Stars program is added to that as well.
Yep.
The Next Stars program is a tough one. You going Ditto? The Next Stars program is I think added a bit of excitement to see who's coming up, or some clubs didn't use them properly. Well, I should say use them properly. Some clubs are afraid to use,
Yeah, for sure.
because they, so much at stake. The home and away venues now are getting bigger crowds, and you got bigger venues. Back then you playing in a snake pit. So you got 2,000 people screaming down your neck, and the pressure's on, and that was excitement plus. You run out of bounds, you fall in somebody's lap. So I think we're at a whole new level of professionalism, which is exciting for the game. I think the coaching has lifted as well, because you got so many coaches are coming from international. Now you don't have a lot of local coaches coming right through the ranks,
Yep.
other than assistants, of course. But you're changing up. And now they start to revert back to the strain. Like, I think that's important that we start, building the game up from that point of view. But I think it's in a good place. It'd be interesting to see how we continue to grow it, because you got all these players that's going to the U.S. playing college basketball, and they come back, they got nowhere to play, because we got only 10 teams, and everyone doesn't have an opportunity to make a team. And when you got Asian player, next star player, 3 imports, all of a sudden there's 5
Yep,
spots
for sure. Yeah.
pretty gone. So there's 5 Australian spots.
Yep.
And you probably got close to 40, 50, 60 players in the U.S., maybe more, playing college basketball. So
Yep.
why would they come back? And I think that's the tough part right now. From my point of view, I like to see at least get it up to 12 teams right now. Canberra,
Yep.
unfortunately, we don't have a venue here, so they've been arguing with the state government to try to get them to upgrade the facility, and it just hasn't happened. And as I mentioned, 2003, we probably had a team that could have won it then, and would have continued to go forward. Probably another team out of Sydney, they wouldn't want that. They did just want the one team.
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another team in Perth, even as well.
Yeah.
You get one in Fremantle.
Gold Coast, Darwin. They're speaking of, right?
Go Darwin. I don't know about the Darwin one.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
Mm.
Yeah, because they don't have a facility either.
Yeah.
But and it'd be nice to have that be a truly national competition. They
Yeah.
got, and what they was able to do with Hobart just goes to show that you can reshape the venue. You can already talking about how they're gonna get a bigger venue, because you can't fit another
Yeah.
person there with a shoehorn.
You can't get a ticket there,
You must have been pleased to see a Tasmanian team come back in the league, Cal, after
Yeah, I was.
being out so long. Yeah.
Definitely was. I put my heart and soul into Tassie. No disrespect to Scott Roth, but what they doing now, I was doing on the oily rag back then.
Yeah.
Take the team all around the state. We played in Launceston. We played on the Northwest Coast.
Yeah.
Did all the clinics and helping the game. put on the Tasmanian colors, try to transform them into a bit of pride state, and let the guys fight and try to find the local talent. Marcus Bell Chambers was one. Another guy had to get the local brand playing there. I thought that was important so people can see that it was possible. That you just didn't have to bring in a full imported team
Yeah.
down to Tasmania. But they're doing it. They're doing it, and they're having success, and they're obviously making finals. So now everyone's excited about it, and they play a game or two on the lawn in Launceston, and
Yep.
and then they also do their little clinics around the country. My young son Brooklyn has done some clinics for them, when the team is traveling away and stuff. So I think they got the right formula right now, and it shows. You got 2 teams out of Melbourne. You got 1 out of Sydney. You got 1 out of Brisbane and Cairns. There's no Townsville anymore, which I don't know whether they in the mix. But the Gold Coast, whilst we had the preseason Loggins Bruton Cup up there,
Yeah.
that looked like it could be a venue, but it didn't. To me, it's so transient on the Gold Coast. It's kind of hard to lock in a generation of talented players wanting to go through there, and the fans will probably come and go.
Been tried twice, the Rollers and the Blaze unsuccessfully, right? So,
Yes. But I know they don't like to hear it, but a team in Fremantle could probably spark some interest in the West. Like, obviously, the footballers. You got the Eagles and the Dockers. Like that's got some bite to it when they come together. So, we got to get more teams because or else you're gonna miss out on all the players. And all the young players is coming through. They feel they got to go somewhere else. So they go into Japan, they go into the Philippines, they go into Europe, and looking for their opportunity to continue, to get a game like Kyle Adam.
Yeah. Tad Duffelmeyer's son, you just mentioned him. He's out of the league now as well, right?
Yeah. He's a talented kid.
Yeah.
So you just can't get a job like that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, Cal, I just really wanted to thank you for your time. Woody and I really have looked up to you, since the 80s. We could probably talk for another 2 hours tonight, but we won't do that to you. We've all sort of paused the game that's on tonight, so we're all going to try and watch that without finding out who won and everything like that.
I think Cal just found out. Don't
tell us. Okay. All right, good.
Because my father-in-law came in and just shook my hand, but he went to the bathroom. He said bye on the way out. So.
We're just getting into a quick outro. So just wanted to just remind everyone, please make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be followed on X at Throwbacks Hoops. On Instagram, we're throwback.hoops. Email address, throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Wanted to throw it to you, Cal. Is there anywhere where people can follow you? Is there anything you'd like to give a plug or anything else like that? Or?
Thank you. Well, you can follow me on Instagram, Calvin T. Bruton, I think it is, 55, but also on my website, Bruton Basketball Foundation. We www.Bruton Basketball Foundation. We have a page now. We got a appeal happening for the Canberra appeal, which we try to raise money for the disadvantaged youth. And as you know, I've traveled all over the country. I've been to every single state and territory in Australia, delivering camps and clinics into the indigenous communities. We work with a lot of the Sudanese kids here in Canberra. I do a school, St. Francis Xavier, where a lot of them attend. So I run a program there every Wednesday. So the Futures program, I'm doing that. And now I'm working in collaboration with APM to help young people get jobs. I was doing that with AFL Sports Ready Education and Employment as their master coach, but they moved me on as well as all the other executive staff. So now I've set up the foundation where I'm doing pretty much the same and now looking for partners. So we're trying to raise some funds in the charity. It's a nonprofit, totally full tax deductible status. So you donate, you can claim it back. And that's my goal to get more kids having opportunities to realize their dreams. And what we do is use basketball because that's the tool of engagement that we feel that can teach kids how to teamwork makes the dream work. And I talk about the courage that comes from behind that, because that's what I had to have to get to where I'm at now, was to have what I call my spines. My spines is just as important as my spine. It's my social courage, to keep going. My physical courage to be presentable. My intellectual courage, because I'm always trying to learn, and you guys get me thinking, get me reflecting, and get me looking into the future. My moral courage, because I grew up, as we alluded to, in New York,
Yep.
and sometimes you just have to do what's might not be popular,
Yep.
but you got to do what's right, And I try to always frame my thinking around that, So morally, I try to be straight. So my moral courage. My emotional courage, I try to keep that under control, but your emotions kind of roll. Just it's important to have that emotion, but make sure you release it in the right context. And the most important one for me is in my spines is my spiritual courage. I believe there's a God. I got faith, and that's what's been able to sustain me. I don't see too many 70-year-olds going around doing what I do. With the young kids. It'd been nice to be like Gorgon and have people knock on your door and want to throw a big bag at you and say, "Yeah, come run my program." I still feel that I can coach at any level, and if someone gave me an opportunity, I could look at it. I was hoping that I could be even a consultant to a program where my son, who to me is one of the smartest coaches I've ever been around, CJ is just next level in terms of the way he thinks the game and how he views it, how all his connections in the U.S. and the whole bit. He just loves it like that. It's just a part of him, and I brought him up that way. He's never been not around the basketball court, sort of thing, But I understand how the business works, and I just feel that the Bruton Basketball Foundation wants to get into the business of helping young people go to the next level, and whatever it takes. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm rolling it, and I'm happy that you guys chose me to be on your show, and I hope that I've done it justice and giving you something to hang your hat on.
Absolutely, Cal. The honour's all ours. And look, I think I could speak on behalf of Woody as well. We're just so appreciative of not only what you've done for the game over all years, but what you're doing now to give back to, not just around basketball, but just for community in general. And yeah, we're just both so thankful. Final word for yourself, maybe, Woods.
Look, Cal, if you could actually send Robbie via email all that information about where people can go donate and help with the foundation, that would be great. And what we'll do is we'll get out on our social media channels, make sure we promote it so that we get eyes on it for you as well. As Robbie said, you've achieved a lot in basketball, on and off the court, but you're just a wonderful man, and it really exudes in this interview we've had with you today, getting to know you as a person and individual. And I'll be a better person for it from having this conversation with you. So it means everything to me, and I can't thank you enough.
No, thank you. Well, that's very nice. And you too, Robbie. If you're going on my Facebook page, I'm probably the most active Facebook. That's my spare time when I get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yep.
I get a chance to sort of put little things together. So all my appeals and everything like that.
Yep.
Is there. But happy to send you through. Like I said, the Bruton Basketball Foundation has all that. So I'll pop that through to you guys, and then we'll look forward to following you with interest from this point on.
Absolutely, we'd love to touch base again in the future. And thanks so much again, Cal. And it's a big peace out from the Throwback Hoops crew.
No, you're very welcome. Okay, God bless you guys. Take care.